Welcome to The Big Rich Show. This podcast will focus on conversations with friends and acquaintances within the four-wheel drive industry. Many of the people that I will be interviewing, you may know the name, you may know some of the history, but let's get in depth with these people and find out what truly makes them a four-wheel drive enthusiast. So now's the time to sit back, grab a cold one, and enjoy our conversation.
Whether you're crawling the Red Rocks of Moab or hauling your toys to the trail, Maxxis has the tires you can trust for performance and durability. 4 wheels or 2. Maxxis tires are the choice of champions because they know that whether for work or play, for fun or competition, Maxxis tires deliver. Choose Maxxis. Tread victoriously.
Why should you read 4Low Magazine? Because 4Low Magazine is about your lifestyle, the four-wheel drive adventure lifestyle that we all enjoy. Rock crawling, trail riding, event coverage, vehicle builds, and do-it-yourself tech, all in a beautifully presented package. You won't find 4Low on the newsstand rack, so subscribe today and have it delivered to you. Well, today, featured on Conversations with Big Rich, we have none other than Shelby Hall. Shelby is the granddaughter of legendary racer Rod Hall. We're going to delve into Shelby's life, learning the ropes from one of the greatest, and her life growing up in a racing family. Shelby, how are you doing?
Hi, I am doing awesome.
I first met you that I can remember. I believe it was at one of the Off-Road Hall of Fame dinners. And then we were together. Shelly and I staffed the Rebelle Rally, and you participated in it. But I know I've known your grandfather for a long time. Back in the early 2000s, I ran Valley Off-Road Racing Association, VORA, and the family came out and raced with us with the Hummers. And I think that's when I first met Emily Miller as well, although can't specifically say I remember her being at the race. But anyway, it's great to have you here. We'd really like to hear your history, some of the family history, and how you got to being where you're at now.
Well, thank you. I am so excited to talk to you and kind of relive some of the memories. It's been an interesting time in quarantine. So it's nice to talk about off-road and, something to look back on, to give us something to look forward to. I can't wait to get back out and get in the dirt and have some fun.
I agree totally.
Yeah, but you are right. So I am a third generation Hall, and Rod Hall is my grandfather. He had 2 boys, Josh Hall and Chad Hall. Josh is my dad, so of course Chad is my uncle. And, I feel like, honestly, I don't know anything different other than off-road. I can remember way back before school age, so prior to 5 years old, my dad and my mom ran the Rod Hall Off-Road Racing Driving School. And that was here in Reno, which is where I live. And I remember my sister and I would hang out in the motorhome during the day while they would be teaching class. And of course, we'd be playing and whatnot. But then in the evenings, once class had come to an end, I would beg my dad to take us for hot laps in the race truck. So he would strap us in. I wasn't even big enough to see over the dashboard, but he would strap us in, and he would just take us out and go, fast. And I would just beg him, please go faster, go faster. And so I really feel like, that was the beginning of it for me, and I just became fully immersed in it. Whereas my older sister, it wasn't really her thing. So, I feel pretty fortunate that I loved it and that I had the opportunity to join in with everything that they were doing. So then as I got older, I was able to work with Rod in his different businesses. So I was an instructor for the Rod Hall light truck tire seminars, where we worked in partnership with BF Goodrich and Michelin. And that was such a fun experience. We got to work with people from all over the United States, people that work for different tire distribution companies, Costco, Sam's Club, Discount Tire, companies like that. And they would get to come through our course and just be fully immersed in learning everything they could about the light truck tires. And it was so fun. I mean, we would have some people come through who had never been to the desert before, people that had never seen snow before. And so it was a really cool opportunity to get to share with so many people what we love to do, and then also to share our area with them. And from there, I worked with Rod with the Off-Road Motorsports Hall of Fame. Man, that was a really special time for me. Honestly, I mean, it's kind of embarrassing to say this, I guess, but I feel like I learned so much more about my own family and my grandfather. During that time, I worked for the Hall of Fame for 8 years, and it was my job to know about all of the inductees. So I was just constantly doing research and learning about really so many of the guys who were the original dudes, the original guys that set up what we know today. And I guess I always kind of felt like my grandpa was pretty humble, and he didn't talk. I mean, he had his moments, his proud moments, but for the most part, he wasn't the person that just read off his list of accomplishments to you. And so really during those 8 years at the Hall of Fame was when I learned all of the amazing things that he did. That was really cool for me. I then worked with him. We opened up another business together. And this was kind of the last years of his life. So he had retired and then needed something to do. So he decided he wanted to start up another business. So we opened up Rod Hall Drive. What we did there was we worked with destination management companies and the casinos here in our local area. And we offered tours. We had a fleet of Jeep Wranglers and a fleet of Arctic Cat side-by-sides. So we were able to, once again, just show so many people about our area and about our passion of four-wheeling and the beauty that lies within being outside. That's something that I think is a common thread for my family. We quite love being outdoors. So that was something that was really fun and special. And we also did some off-road driver training, which was really my first experience in teaching others. And it was so rad. I loved it. We worked actually pretty hand in hand with the Rebelle Rally, and quite a few of the women who competed came through our course. And I have never felt so inspired before. So that was a really cool experience for me.
That's one of the things with the Rebelle that always amazes me is that many, if not all of these women that get together to do the Rebelle, they may be super strong in their individual skills in whatever business they are running or own or involved in outside of off-road and driving. And then they get into the Rebelle and it really throws them out of their comfort zone. You know, you always have the Cora Jokinens or Nina Barlows or Emmy Halls that are used to off-road.
Right.
But most of them, you know, even if they've got a Toyota and they go wheeling every weekend, it's completely different when they get into the rally type situation. even watching those women expand their horizons and basically just come alive during the event it's the reason I like the event more than any other event that I am part of, even including the ones I put on.
You are so right. And I will honestly say, the first year of the rally, I had never done anything like that before. I have been desert racing for a really long time, but I didn't even really know that much about it. And my grandpa Rod kept saying, well, don't you want to do it? Don't you want to do the Rebelle? And no, I don't know. I like desert racing. And he said, well, I don't know. I think you should give it a try. And I still was kind of on the fence about it. And we hosted our first Rebelle driving course. And when I met those women, it was a group of women who, I mean, one of them had been a mom for the last 18 years, and she just wanted to do something different. She wanted to prove to herself that she was still a badass. And there was other women who didn't even know when to put it into four-wheel drive or how to fill a tire up. And they didn't let any of those things be a roadblock for them. And then here was me, who has all this experience, and yet I was like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. And I couldn't believe that I would let myself get in my own way like that. And so I immediately said, yep, let's do it. And my teammate and I got ready for the Rebelle in 5 weeks, which was insane, but we did it. And I agree with you. It was like nothing I had ever experienced. I have been down the Baja Peninsula. I have raced in the Baja 1000. I have, which takes us 32 hours. I've done all these pretty incredible things. And yet every day I was like, this is crazy. I'm totally out of my comfort zone. We're having to use all different skills, all new skills. We're having to learn new things. Oh my gosh, communication. It's really a multifaceted event. I will say this is not something I tell a lot of people, but I cried when we crossed the finish line. And I've never cried. And it was tears of joy. I was so proud of myself. I was so proud of my team that we did it, that we made it 10 days and 1,300 miles and through Glamis, which I'd never even seen Glamis before. And I was terrified. And we did it, and that was a really cool experience for me.
I can tell you, Shelly and I were sitting doing our thing at, we had done a checkpoint, and then we started sweeping down, and we were getting close to Tonopah. And you were in a red Jeep.
I was.
But we were sitting up high above, where we could see down into the valley, and I could see dust trails going all different directions as, different teams were going after different checkpoints. And there was one dust trail that I kept seeing zipping across, and then it would stop, and then it would zip back the other way, traveling a little bit faster speed than most of the ladies were driving at. And I looked at Shelly, and I'm going, okay, that's one of two people. It's either going to be Shelby or it's going to be Emmy. One of those two is the one that's ripping around out there. And you guys came up and we had been sitting above a blue checkpoint. We went past it, and you went flying by us, stopped right where the blue was at. I don't remember if it was you or your navigator got out, ran to the checkpoint, jumped back in, and zoom, took off again. And it was quite amazing, because we sat there and watched like 5 or 6 other teams go after that same blue. And you guys were on a mission where it looked like you knew exactly where it was at before you even got there. And because the other teams would drive past it and then back up, they were looking like right around the road and not thinking about where they really needed to be. It was interesting watching that. But then I remember the next day.
I was going to say, not every day was like that. That's for dang sure. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. starting off and making a wrong turn can be
Yep.
can be frustrating, and
That was a
that
bummer.
can happen in Mexico too.
That is very true. Yes, I have found myself in some interesting predicaments in Mexico as well. But, it's just part of the deal. And, thankfully, you can laugh about it later on. And my teammate, Amy Lerner, she is phenomenal. She competed in the Gazelle Rally a few times, but she was always the driver. So this was her first experience as a navigator. And man, I really it is so I applaud all of the navigators because they're really the stars of the show in this type of event. It is, wow, it's so much to take in. There's strategy and mapping and triangulating and reading a topography map. And so it's not just following the line on the GPS. It really is where we were having to do math equations for TSD sections. So it was really, and I found that this competition is not about speed, whereas, a desert race is about speed. I found out very quickly on day one, it is not about speed, because that's when you miss little roads and you miss things that you need to be looking for. So it was definitely, it was a great experience, and I would love to do it again.
So your family is raced predominantly in four-wheel drive classes.
Yes.
Did you ever have the opportunity to do any slower type wheeling, like doing the Rubicon Trail or any of those? Anything
a little bit.
style?
We definitely have spent some time on the Rubicon Trail, but for the most part, and of course, going out and just having fun with friends and whatnot. But really, and I know my grandpa was a Jeeper in his earlier days, but for the most part, we really love going fast in the desert.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yes. I do love Rubicon, though. Rod is one of the original 13 owners, and so it does it has a very special place in my heart. And I have had some pretty interesting experiences because we have never been people to have very modified vehicles. That's something that we pride ourselves on, and something that is pretty cool for us to be able to share with other people, that you don't have to have a super built rig to still go and have fun and enjoy yourself. And it's really about learning technique and patience and having a few good extra tools, like your tires, like having, being able to air up and air down, and, some things like that definitely help you. But I drive an H3 Hummer that has been a little bit modified, but for pre-running down in Mexico, not for creeping through the Rubicon Trail. But I will say that Hummer has made it multiple times through the Rubicon Trail. It definitely has some rock rash, and it definitely has, like the muffler's probably bent, and the gas tank definitely is not quite the same shape that it used to be, but we've made it. And even that Jeep that we took on the Rebelle, I have taken that multiple times through the Rubicon, and same thing. It has a very minimal lift and a little bigger tire, and that's it. I always get really nervous before we go do some sort of like a rock crawling trip, because it's like, whew, having to scrape metal on rocks, and, I'm not a huge fan of that. But we always have an awesome time.
Excellent. So what was the first race that you drove in or were the driver of record? Do you remember your first race?
Yeah, well, my first first race was actually riding with Rod, and it was a Vora race. I believe it was the USA 500.
Okay.
And we were in his blue H3 Hummer. And man, I was feeling every emotion. You know, I was like, oh my gosh, I get to ride with my grandpa. Oh my gosh, I have to ride with my grandpa. What if I say something wrong? What if I say left when I mean right? What if I, all the what ifs. I had no idea what to expect. And then the other thing going through my mind was, how do you tell Rod Hall what to do? He knows what he's doing. So do I say anything? Do I just, I was totally overthinking. So we get in the car and we're racing along, and he was so calm. He was having a blast. He talked his way through it. And I think that was his way of training me. So we hit a rise a little bit too fast. And that's exactly what he said. Whoop, I think the next one will just go 1 mile an hour slower. And that was how he coached me through it. And the whole time, I just had this huge smile on my face. And I kept trying to tell myself, okay, you're in a race. You need to be kind of serious. You need to be focused. And I would just get this huge smile and think, oh, this is just so much fun. I just love this. And that was it. And then the next race, he said, okay, Shelby, you get to drive. And I said, I'm not sure if I'm ready for that yet. And he said, well, now's as good a time as any. Perfect. So I got one ride, and then, and actually I think the Baja 1000 was the next race. So nothing like throwing me to the wolves.
Exactly. Jumping right in the fire.
Which was totally his style, for sure. Anything that made me nervous, he would make me do it.
Besides racing with Rod, what is the memory that sticks out the most for you anytime you're racing? When you're talking racing or you're thinking about it, what is there a aha moment or something that happened out on the race course, or something that just made it all worthwhile for you besides Rod?
Yeah. So, and I would say this in every race, being a third generation and being a female, I feel like I have pretty big shoes to fill. And I feel like there are a lot of expectations. And not only do I feel like other people have expectations, I put some pretty hard expectations on myself. And so I am pretty nervous when it is leading up to the race, because I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to let the team down. I don't want to let anybody down. And which is not really the best frame of mind, I don't think, to have. So I've been trying to change that. But, I just go into every race and try to remember that A, I'm out there really to have fun, and that B, I am really capable, that I do know the skills that it takes, and I do know how to read terrain, and I do know how to diagnose the vehicle, and I do know how to make it through my stint. And I will say, I think it was my second Baja 1000, I tipped the car over, and I was not pumped. I was the end of my stint. I had been driving all night. We got stuck in silt for hours. We were exhausted. And I was like a mile from where I was getting out of the car. And I made a really, really, really stupid mistake. I turned uphill on a downhill slope, and gravity wins every time. And so I just laid it over on its side. But I mean, as shitty as it was in the moment, we still finished and everything was fine there. I learned, right? I learned from my mistake. And unfortunately, we have to make mistakes to learn. So, that moment for me was pivotal, that everybody does it. It's just part of the deal. Thankfully, nobody was hurt, and learn from it. And every time I get done with a race and I get out of the race car, I think, man, I think I drove 110%. I really don't think I could have gone any faster. I really feel like I pushed my limits. I scared myself a couple times, but nothing, I feel like I'm a better driver at the end of this race. And I just think that's cool. I think that's a really, which is partly one of the reasons I love racing so much, is that you're constantly pushing yourself, and we are capable of so much more than we think we are.
So what series have you been racing in over the last couple of years?
So last year was really cool for me. Actually, I had been wanting to transition into a side-by-side. My family's been racing kind of the stock production class forever, and it's not really a class anymore. You go out and there's a couple cars in your class, but it's not super competitive. And I had felt like I was ready to bump up into a little more competitive class and a vehicle with a little more capability. And a UTV is where it's at. It's the largest class. It's the largest growing class. They're super fun to drive. So I had been thinking about how I could transition into getting into a side-by-side, and ended up meeting some mutual friends who were interested in having another driver on board. So they invited me to come and race with them. So we did the Score series, which was really fun. It was my first time of actually racing the 500, the Baja 500, and of course the Baja 400. It was its first year last year. So that was really fun. And but then I was very, very lucky to be given the opportunity to race the new Bronco R at the 1,000. So I didn't get to finish up the season in the UTV, but it was a blast. And so this year, it's like everything's a little bit up in the air, but I'll be back in a UTV, but racing with a different team. And we're going to be kind of jumping around a little bit. We're not going for a series. We're just going to have some fun. So we'll definitely be racing some Vora and Best in the Desert. And hopefully I'll be back in Mexico for the 1,000.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Bronco R.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah, let's talk about it. When did it all come about for you guys to jump into that vehicle and get that thing ready to race? Or when did you get involved with the program?
It's a pretty crazy story, actually. And so many times throughout this experience, I would pinch myself and say, oh my gosh, is this really happening? I can't believe I'm getting this amazing opportunity. So early in 2019, I would say maybe March or April, a couple people from Ford came out to Reno, and they brought a virtual reality setup. And they wanted to show Rod what the new Bronco was going to look like, because he had been such a great influence on the brand, which was so incredible. Rod was in a wheelchair at this point, and he wasn't able to drive, and so this was a really special thing for us. So it was just my dad, my grandma, my grandpa, and myself, and the Ford guys. And we got to have a little sneak peek of what the new Bronco was going to look like. And it was very special for Rod. It brought tears to his eyes, and the whole virtual reality setup was incredible. It was like you were sitting in the vehicle, which was pretty cool. So from there, I just kept in communication with those men that I had met, and had just told them whatever I could do to help. I would love to be a part of it. I thought it was awesome. And so we had some communication throughout the next few months. And then they invited me to come back to Detroit to just meet with them and see what was going on back at in Detroit, which I had no idea what was to come. I just thought, wow, this is a pretty cool, I feel pretty special to be able to experience this. And so they had set up a lot of really neat things for us. We got to tour the archives, so we got to see a lot of what the original Broncos looked like, all these really cool old articles that included not just Rod, but just kind of, the history of off-road racing. And it was really neat to see all of the old advertisements. It was really awesome to see the history of the Bronco. And, essentially, I think at the end of the day, it was an interview, and I just didn't know it. So as I was leaving that day, we were walking out of the main facility. I still didn't really know why I was there. I mean, no one had actually said anything to me other than I got to meet everyone, performance side, marketing side, everywhere. It was very overwhelming in a wonderful way. So as we're walking out, I asked one of the guys, I said, so what do we do from here? Like, what are we doing? And he said, well, we would love to work with you, and whatever aspect that may be. So why don't you go home? I know you'll need to rest up, and we'll touch base next week. So still, I felt like I had no answer as to like what we were doing or what the whole point of this was. Yeah, and then from there, they invited me to drive on the team, which was, it was one of those moments where I was pinching myself, and I thought, oh my gosh, wait, you want me to drive the new Bronco? And I didn't know who was on the team yet. Everything was a very hush-hush, but I had to basically go do a drive test. I had to make sure that I was not going to wreck the vehicle or what have you. Thankfully, I passed that. Whew, that was also first drive test. I had to drive in front of people, talk about nerve-wracking.
Kind of a qualifying, but not.
Seriously, which I've never qualified before. So it was definitely an experience of all firsts for me, which I loved every minute of it. Oh my gosh. And really, it was kind of the first experience of me doing all of these things by myself. I had to do a bunch of traveling. Everything happens in Southern California, so I had to travel back and forth a lot, and was kind of a solo ranger on it. So that was a new experience for me as well. But so I passed the qualifying. Sorry, the dog. And that was kind of when the schedule started getting put into place, and when I got to learn who else was on the team. I knew this was going to be an experience of a lifetime. And, Rod had already passed away by this time, which was really a bummer for me. It would have been such a cool thing for him. He would have been so proud. But I just knew that I got to be on this star-studded team of guys who have been in the industry and racing for so long that they are amazing at what they do. And they all come from a different leg of the sport. And so I went into it thinking, I'm going to pick all these guys' brains. I want to learn as much as I can from all of them. And I just want to be in the moment, every moment. I want to remember everything about this. Yeah, it was so much fun. We did a big group pre-run. All of us went down and we pre-ran the whole race course so that we could get to know each other better. And everyone was so amazing. And I was the only girl. So that could have been hard. And everyone made me feel so incredibly welcome and a part of the team, and, no doubts. Everyone was there encouraging me at the end of every day. they were actually, I think, a little bit surprised. They were like, dang, you kind of went through some of that shit better than everyone else. Which I think it's just the patience of a woman that sometimes a man doesn't have. Maybe. I don't know that for a fact, but
you're probably right.
Yeah, so we did our big group pre-run, and I really tried very hard to rotate vehicles so that I had an opportunity to ride and drive with everyone else. Because I definitely wanted to see their driving style. We had, like I said, people from different aspects of desert racing. So we have Kurt LeDuc, who is a phenomenal short course racer. And we have Jason Shearer, who is a rock crawler. And Cameron Steele, who drives a trophy truck. So, I mean, it's just so many different skill sets all on one team. So many, just the tips and the tricks and the stories. And it was the most memorable trip I've ever had. I just feel so grateful that I got to be a part of it. So yeah, I mean, from there, it was about, I guess, and actually prior to that, we did do a big SEMA reveal, which was the first time that the media got to see the race car. And that was a really special experience. I got to drive Rod's original Bronco that he overhauled the Baja 1000 in. And we had the old Bronco and the new Bronco, and that was a special experience. It was a very limited group of people that were there, and I got to tell my story and give some highlights and, you know, everything that makes me so proud of my grandfather and proud to be a Hall. I got to share that and be a part of it, so that was really special. And then it came race time, and whew, man, it was wild. It was like the first time in I don't know how long that the race itself was postponed because the rain was just torrential. The truck definitely, we were grateful for the extra day. The race truck needed a little bit of attention, but the guys worked tirelessly. Oh my gosh, the whole crew, the Ford Performance guys, Cameron's team, everyone worked together so well, and so many smart guys that were putting their brains together to put this brand new race truck together, you know. And that's kind of the thing of it, is nobody knew what to expect and nobody knew what the outcome would be. We just knew that we would go out and do our best and hopefully make it to the finish. And we had a rough race.
Well, Baja is that way for a lot of people.
It sure is.
And I don't think anybody can ever say that they've raced Baja without ever having challenges along the way. Even guys that have raced for 30, 40 years, or like Rod, 50 years, they can always look back and say, wow, there was a couple of races or many races where challenges were thrown out there, and you just never know how it's going to work out down there. It's always a crapshoot.
You sure don't. And if you are lucky enough to have the opportunity to pre-run, which I will say with Rod, it's not something that we did very often. The course is nothing like it was when you pre-ran it. I mean, and that's part of the challenge, is it rains and things happen and the natural environment changes. And so you got to roll with the punches, and, you know, you got to have luck on your side too, I think.
Absolutely.
And that's the fun of it, is it's, you know, machine versus the desert. It's man versus the desert.
So what's next for you? Where do you think, besides racing with the UTVs, what do you see for the future?
Well, that's a great question. I would love to be involved with the Bronco project. I was very fortunate to get to learn a lot about the brand. And like I said, I got to meet so many people that have worked on the project. And it's incredible. I really can't wait for everyone to get to see the new Bronco. And I'm really, really impressed. They have thought so many things through. This vehicle is going to be perfect for anyone who wants to live the spontaneous life, who wants to be able to just load up, grab the cooler, and go for a day ride. I think it's a badass vehicle, and I want to be a part of something that I believe in. So I am hopeful that we get to continue to work together going forward. And, you know, I live a regular life too. I have a regular job and I race when I can. You know, some people are able to make racing their whole life and make a living from it. And that isn't me at this point. So I just want to be able to race as much as I can, be at as many races as I can, and just be involved. You know, it's a piece of me, and it's a very important thing to me, and it's a strong hobby, and I love it. So I will be at every race I can.
Awesome. Any plans on trying to do the Rebelle again?
I think maybe.
Maybe with a blue oval.
Maybe.
Maybe.
That would be fun.
Yes, it would be. It'd be great. So let's talk about the experiences that you've had outside of racing, you know, which is the family that may have helped you get to where you're at right now. Anything besides racing that you participated in, organizations or sports or anything like that?
I mean, I would say that primarily, I mean, racing has been my number one sport. I am pretty big into fitness. I love it. My day revolves around that. That's the first thing that gets done in the morning. And what I love so much about that I really take into racing with me and vice versa, is that we can do hard things. There's a lot of times, you know, a lot of people don't have time to work out, or they don't choose that as a priority. So just like racing, it takes so much time. It's not just showing up at the race. It's all the prep time. It's all the logistics. It's booking all the hotel rooms. It's figuring out who your crew is going to be. It's figuring out how far each vehicle can go on fuel. It's ordering the fuel. You know, it's the tool bags. It's like a million pieces. So it's finding the time and making things a priority to be successful. And I feel that that working out is very similar to that. It's finding the dedication, the motivation, prioritizing. And there's been so many times in the racetrack, it's the middle of the night and I'm tired, I'm hungry, and I think, oh my God, whose idea was this? This sucks. Right now, this sucks. And then I think, that feeling when you hand the truck off, or that feeling when you cross the finish line of, yeah, it sucked for a little bit, but you pushed through, you're a badass. And it's that feeling of overcoming something that you kind of feel like maybe you won't, that pushes you and propels you to continue to move forward.
Is there something on the I hate to use the term bucket list because that sounds like, you know, it's too final. I like the life list.
Yeah.
Is there something on the couple things or something on the life list that you want to accomplish or do that you haven't done yet?
I do. Do you mean kind of off-road wise?
Anything.
Anything. Well, I do have quite a few. I love traveling. So I would love to continue to travel as much as I can. And I don't have any one particular place that I want to go. I want to see everywhere. I want to experience the United States. I feel like I haven't even done that much traveling within the States. Something else that is kind of a funny one, and when I tell most people this, they're surprised, but I travel to Mexico sometimes multiple times a year, but I have always gone for a race. So really, I go for work, and I'm not there to party and have a great time and sightsee and try all the different foods. I eat the same places I know so that I don't get sick, or I go to the store and buy stuff to make sandwiches, so I'm not really experiencing Baja authentically. And so what I really, really, really want to do is go and take a vacation and rent side-by-sides and go with a group of friends and just go tour the peninsula and try fish tacos in the Bay of LA and, just see the sights and really experience it and drink tequila and, have a great time. That's something that I am very much looking forward to doing someday.
And not being on a race schedule.
And not being on a race schedule. Correct.
Yeah, when I first started going to Baja, first time I went down with BFG, Jack Seipolt, when he had his BFG pit that he would do down there. And it was the year that they shot Dust to Glory. So I think it was 2003.
Yes.
And that was the second year. That was the first full year that I owned Vora, because I bought Vora at the end of 2002. Went down there. It was nothing against BFG, because they're there to do a job, and that's to get every single one of their teams across the finish line. But I was like, hey, I want to go do this. I want to go do that. And you don't get a chance to do that.
Right.
So then we hooked up, and I went down. I started going down with Pistol Pete, which was probably different than most race teams. I love Pete. I love the guys that were going down there with us. And I only went ever for the 1,000 because it was, off season for me. We were already done with our rock crawling series. So
right.
It made sense, but it was much more open. We got to party. We got to play around, as long as we got down there and we were ready to race on race morning.
Right.
We felt we were ready. You never know. But we had a little bit of success down there. I think one year we got fourth down there with him. Then I helped with Roger Norman when he went off the line in the trophy truck first.
Oh wow!
And that was quite the day. But what I really enjoyed about all that racing with any of those guys, or helping them with their team efforts. I mean, I never raced. I always wanted to, but then I got to the realizing that I would probably be a detriment to a team, just not in the right kind of shape, and having to wear contact lenses, being out in the desert like that. It just probably, I didn't want to slow a team down. So I realized, okay, you're going to have to be on a pit crew. And I like to run communications and kind of help organize and, get people in the right places, that kind of thing. Kind of like I do putting on as an event promoter. But the best part of every single one of those races was being able to take as much time as we wanted on the way home.
Yeah.
So if we left Cabo, or if we left La Paz, or if we were just, a loop race and ending in Ensenada, it was always, okay, let's stay, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 days later, 8 days, 10 days, whatever we wanted to, and just take that time and come back slow, sightsee, eat the fish tacos or eat tacos.
Yes.
Shelly and I went down, we were racing with Mike Schaefer, and it was a race to La Paz. We got done, we were on our way back, and we decided to go to Scorpion Bay.
Oh, yeah.
So we're camped out there in the morning to leave. We get camp packed up and everything. And the Scorpion Bay, the resort area, is closed, and there's signs on there, but the bathrooms were still open. So we went and took a shower, and as we came out, there was some local Mexicans there that said, hey, it's $20. And I'm like,
yeah.
what? $20 for what? We camped on the beach.
Right.
well, you use the bathroom, it's $20.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, well, forget it. We're not paying $20. Well, we're going to go to the police. Say, okay, fine, go to the police. So they follow us down the beach road. They turn and go up the road that I know goes to the police department. I go 2 blocks down. I turn and speed up so I can see if they're actually going to go to the police station. They pull into the police station, and I looked at Shelly and I said, okay, do we want to sit and wait for it, or do you want to run? And she goes, let's run.
Yes, Shelly.
So we proceeded down, it was from there, it was a highway. It was like 12 or 15, 17 kilometers to the racetrack where it went off cross country to La Purisma and then up over the hill. And so I knew once I got to the racetrack off road, nobody was going to catch me anyway. That was probably the one time in Mexico where I felt like a race car driver.
Yes.
Because we did not want to get arrested.
I was going to say, not just a race car driver, but also an outlaw. So.
Well, that wouldn't have been my first time like that. But in Mexico, yes.
Well, there's a first time for everything.
Yeah, it was a great trip. And also, when we were in Buenaventura on the way back, Shelly stepped on a stingray.
Oh,
and
no.
her foot started to hurt really bad. So the guy that ran the restaurant there was like, oh, I know what to do, but it's really going to hurt. You got to put your foot in hot water. And it was, I forget what the temperature was, but he's going, I've seen men cry this way. And she's just like, get me the hot water. Get me the hot water. As soon as she put her foot in the hot water, boom, it neutralized it and she was fine. But she kept telling me on the way, from where we were camped in the yard there to the bar, she was like, and before when she finally told me what she had done, she goes, I don't want to go to a hospital in Mexico. I don't want to go to a hospital in Mexico. And I'm like, well, we're not going to life flight you out for stepping on so we're going to have to drive if this doesn't work. So it worked, but experiences down there are just crazy.
They are. And that is the coolest thing, I think, or one of the coolest things is, man, the stories, the memory is, you're in the middle of nowhere and you gotta just be able to figure it out. And, life is different down there. So you have to be willing to roll with that. And I just think I think people who are involved with desert racing are a unique group of people who really think outside of the box and are pretty, you got to be somewhat laid back because you got to be like, oh, okay, we've stepped on the stingray. So now what are we going to do? The plan has changed a little bit. It's awesome. The stories, the memories, they're crazy.
So is your Uncle Chad or your dad Josh still racing?
Yeah, Chad is still racing. He is actually partnered up with Chevy, and he has a really cool program going on with them. And I think my dad is actually going to be my co-dog this season.
Nice.
Which will be so rad. He is a phenomenal driver, and I will be nervous with him sitting next to me. But man, everything I'll learn, it will just be, priceless. And it'll be a really cool, my dad and I are super close and we always have been. And but this will be the first time that we've raced together. So it'll be a really cool bonding experience for us.
Excellent. Excellent. So is there anything that we've not touched upon in the life of Shelby Hall that you think people might be interested in?
Well, I feel like that really is kind of everything. I've told you secrets about me crying and that I have not actually just gone down to Mexico and had a good time, or not a good time, but I always have a good time. But I think that, that's me pretty well summed up, and my favorite things to talk about and the things that keep me motivated to move forward.
Excellent. So have you thought about, Jason Shearer and Brad Lovell and now Cameron Steele have all come through at least King of the Hammers. LeDuc ran a rock crawl only once, and he won it. Jason's been a national champion. Brad's been a national champion. Cameron's learning the rock crawling portion, racing out there. Any thoughts about trying an Ultra 4 or King of the Hammers race someday?
I would never say no to any type of racing. I love it. And if I got hooked up with a good team, because I don't know anything about it, to be honest. I go to the races as a spectator and love watching it, but I don't even know what it's like to be in one of those racetracks. So I would definitely, like Cameron has done, teamed up with someone who has experience and some success to help teach and guide him. So I would be totally down to jump in and learn it and see what it's like, because who knows, maybe that's where it's at for me. I think it would be fun.
Perfect. Well, this is a great opportunity because a lot of those people are listening to this podcast now. So anybody out there, if you're looking for an experienced young lady to come out and drive and race with you, somebody that comes from a legacy family and knows what she's doing out there, she's driven in the rocks in the Rubicon in a pretty much stock vehicles and can get through that way, might be something to look at, guys. Shelby Hall. So
call me.
Yep, there you go. Shelby, thank you so much for coming on Conversations with Big Rich and spending the day with us here and doing this interview. And we really do wish you the best of luck in the future. And we really hope that all your dreams of off-road come true.
Thank you. This has been so awesome. I appreciate you including me, and thank you. This was a really nice time. Thank you.
All right. And thank you, Shelby. If you enjoy these podcasts, please give us a rating. Share some feedback with us via Facebook or Instagram, and share our link among your friends who might be like-minded. Well, that brings this episode to an end. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll catch you next week with Conversations with Big Rich. Thank you very much.